And we are very excited to be going live this evening from Newton, Massachusetts. We welcome everybody internationally who are joining us in several different time zones this evening for a very exciting, dynamic, and I hope fascinating for all of you program that is going to be putting you in contact with some of the very best and brightest of Boston College Law School's faculty, students, as well as alumni. And so I look forward this evening to being your MC. My name is Simone Kang, and I'm the Director of International Programs here at Boston College Law School. And I'll be joined here this evening with a wide variety of our faculty from different practice groups, as well as students who are focusing on several of our concentrations here at Boston College Law School, and our wonderful alumni who have joined us from around the world who are currently practicing law, who are going to be able to talk to you about their life post-LLM program. I'm very, very pleased to begin that program by first explaining a little bit about the format. This evening, you are going to be seeing us at this moment in a panel format, and I will be introducing all of our guests in a moment. In that panel, I will give each of our faculty, students, and alumni the opportunity to make observations about the LLM program, and I want to encourage any of you who are interested to please put questions in the Q&A box. So you'll notice on the upper right-hand corner, there is a Q&A feature. So please feel free to use the Q&A feature to ask questions. I will be reserving some time at the end of this first hour to raise the questions that you have. If you would like to communicate with each other, please feel free to use the chat feature. You'll notice that chat feature will stay with us throughout the entire time of this fantastic conference this evening. We'll be taking note of it and following up with you in the event your question or your chat isn't addressed this evening. I want to say that in that first hour of the panel, we will spend the first 30 to 35 minutes discussing different aspects of the experience at Boston College Law School, followed by a roughly 20-minute question and answer session. At 7 p.m., which is at the end of our first hour Eastern time, which is in approximately 45 minutes, we will then enter into the second phase of the program, which is a networking opportunity. You will then see an entire table conference area with a variety of different law subjects, as well as tables in which our current LLM students and our alumni will be sitting to be able to answer questions that you might have in specific areas or specific facets of the BC law experience. So with that being said, I want to also let you know that everyone here will be reporting back to the LLM Admissions Committee about their experience. So please don't be shy about letting yourselves be known. And for engaging with all of us this evening, we will be very happy to send that information along to our participants and our participants of our committee. I have the honor and privilege of being able to introduce to you this evening our panelists. We have with us today Dean Judith Mcmorrow, the Associate Dean of Boston College Law School's International Engagement Initiatives, as well as our experiential programs. In addition to which, I am also have the great honor and pleasure of introducing you to Professor David Worth, a world-renowned expert in international environmental law and public international law, as well as our alumna, Dr. Bianca Giufini, who is joining us from Texas this afternoon, as well as Jayen Chen, who is joining us from a law firm here in Boston area, as well as current LLM student, Juliana Lobo, who will be discussing her experience as a current LLM student. I'd like to pass the microphone on to Professor Judy Mcmorrow to start off our panel conversation. Please, Judy.
Okay. Thank you. We're so delighted that folks are sharing this time with us so we can tell you more about Boston College Law School and also more about studying law in the United States, studying an LLM in the United States. The goal is by the end of time for you to get a better feel both of Boston College Law School, but also the joys and maybe occasionally challenges of studying, getting an LLM degree in the US. So Boston College Law School, BC Law School is obviously located in Boston. We're in the Newton campus of BC. So that's the first town west of Boston in what is actually a stunningly beautiful community. And on our campus, a beautiful campus, we have, which we attend, in person soon, we have about 800 students each year who come and join our community to study law. Of that group is a cohort of roughly 15, typically LLM students, who come and join the community, are in an integral part of our community. So our program is definitely boutique. It is those 15 students come in and form a tight community. And they're led, in truth, by Simone Kang here today as moderator of our panel. Our students, when they come in for an LLM, receive lots of individual attention. It is hard to get lost at Boston College Law School because you have somebody who's keeping an eye on you. It's hard to get lost because you develop a network and community of friends, both from LLM and JD students, who are there to provide the gentle support that we all need as we go through our legal studies. Now, with that ability to have a boutique program means it can be tailored to you and your interests, so that when you sit down and plan your curriculum, everybody's going to have to take a legal research and writing course. Everyone is going to take an introduction to US legal system course. And then what else you take really depends on your goals and interests. If you're going to take the bar, you're all going to take professional responsibility. I teach that class, so I would say it's a really good course to take no matter what. You'll also, if you're, depending on what bar you're interested in, you'd have to work with Ms. Simone Kang to identify what else you need to take. So most of the rest of your classes, or what you take, you're going to be integrated in the same classes with JD students. So what does that mean? What does it mean both to you and what does it mean to us? It's a really wonderful opportunity to have international students in my class. I happen to teach torts, which is personal injury law. It's taught in every legal system has this social issue about how to address injuries. When I have international students in my class, both JD students and LLM students, it brings a richness of perspective that I didn't even know I was missing until we began to grow our international community. Here's a classic example. So torts is about a society's decision about when to internalize risk and when to externalize it. When a harm happens, when does your legal system sort of allow people to be injured for the greater social good? Like, so in economic systems that are growing rapidly and they want to support the economic growth, often just allow workers and others to be injured and don't have a legal system that internalizes risk and makes the person who causes harm do risk. So that you can talk with students and they can bring their experience about risk assessment of their society. They can students can bring in different perspectives on the law. Like if our LLM students typically have, I think all studied law in their domestic jurisdictions. And when we get to damages in torts, it's really wonderful to be able to explore that in the United States, we have a system to make a person whole. So, and it's sad but true in the United States, it costs more money to kill a rich person than a poor person. That's kind of sad, but it is because our social goal is to make a person whole. Go to China, and their system of assessing damages is the median wage in the city in which a person has their residency. It has a much more easily administered program, and it evens out that inequality in terms of damages, but it also means that people are not always made whole. So these are really legitimate alternate policy choices a society can make. How do we even know about this? Well, because we create open dialogues. We learn about other legal systems and cultures. So those are the benefits of having LLM students and international students is just significant. One last thing before I pass it over to David is the benefit of Boston. Now, I happen to be sitting in my room. It's along the Charles River, and it's dark here, but In the daytime, in the spring when it warms up, I can go out and rent a canoe and canoe along the Charles River. I can get in my car, and in about 25 minutes, I'm in downtown Boston. And I can go to the theater. I can walk on the Boston Common. I can walk on the Freedom Trail. I can touch the history that is imbued everywhere in the city of Boston. Boston is surprisingly, it's a very walkable town when you get downtown. And it's actually a series of lots and lots of neighborhoods with so much to explore. So it's impossible to be bored. Let me say that. Okay, with that broad background introduction, let me turn it over to Professor David Wirth, our premier international scholar who also is a man who builds bridges.
All right, thank you very much, Judy. I'm David Wirth, and it has been my great honor to serve on the Boston College faculty for more than 20 years now. I was originally hired to begin to build a program in the international field, and you are now seeing the fruition of that in the category in the form of Susan, who leads the LLM program, and Professor Mcmorrow, who's responsible for our global engagement. It was also a privilege and an honor to be involved in shaping and molding the LLM program, the master's program, from the very beginning. And as Professor Mcmorrow and Ms. Kang both say, the emphasis is on what makes Boston College special, what makes the Boston College Law School experience special for you. The most important thing, myself aside, is the faculty. All of our faculty are, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this as well from our alumni, all of our faculty are actively engaged with students all the time. In fact, Dr. Giufini did an independent research project with me that ended up being publishable and contributed quite a lot to the to legal thought on the relationship between public interest lawsuits in the United States on the one hand and in Brazil on the other. So the Boston College Law School experience is first and foremost individualized, active, hands-on, and involved with faculty members. The organizers asked me to describe a little bit about my own background and then to describe the international program as such. I have a somewhat varied background. I was originally trained as a chemist, in fact, worked as a chemist, as a bench scientist in industry for a while. I took a little bit of time off to go to law school, didn't come back, and ended up at the US State Department, the Foreign Ministry, negotiating multilateral treaties on environment, the sort where you speak into the microphone and your words are translated into 5 languages. I then ended up working in public interest, basically in the same area, and then eventually ended up in legal academia. But I have always been working in the same field, namely public international law, and specifically international environmental law. Boston College Law School is exceptionally strong in the international legal field. I teach 2 courses that are bedrock, cornerstone courses. One of them is just called International Law. It's public international law. I tell our students, the language that you are learning is the same language that students are learning in Moscow, that students are learning in Jerusalem, that students are learning in Beijing, that students are learning in Canberra. And in fact, right now, I'm actually teaching a course together with a colleague at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. And it turns out that when she says something, it's exactly what I would have said. So in fact, we are all learning to speak the same language. I'm also teaching a course right now in foreign relations law of the United States. The US legal system is unusual in how it deals with external issues, and both courses emphasize simulations, hands-on learning, and interactive, engaged approaches. Little known fact, I think, is that the Boston College, the the subject matter that is most frequently represented on our faculty is indeed international law. You have 3 practitioners, 3 representatives here on your panel today. We also have an individual who specializes in trade law, as well as private international law, in contrast to public international law. We have a faculty member who specializes in EU law. We have not 1, but 2 faculty members that specialize in human rights law. One of the distinguishing features of Boston College Law School as a Jesuit institution is the emphasis on the formation of the whole individual, men and women for others, and a dedication to the common good. I'm in fact teaching a course right now entitled Global Public Health Law in a new minor called Public Health and the Common Good. So pretty much whatever you might want in the international field, you can find here at Boston College Law School. And if you can't find it here, we will work with you individually to raise the ceiling, so to speak, to create new opportunities for you in terms of practice opportunities as well as independent research projects. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. I'll be glad to answer questions. And please do take a close look at Boston College Law School and our bespoke, if you will, master's program.
Professor David Wirth, Professor Judy Mcmorrow, thank you so much for your words. I want to honor the pioneership that both Professor Mcmorrow and Professor Wirth have had in international law at Boston College Law School. I cannot say enough about that, but let me say as a small amount to give you the perspective. Professor Judy Mcmorrow has been engaged in China for over 25 years. She has been at Boston College Law School for over 30 years, which means that she's dedicated most of her career to international engagement at Boston College, at least in part. And Professor David Wirth is frequently a Fulbright scholar and is planning on a Fulbright stage in Germany coming up in the next year and a half. It would not be possible for me to be at Boston College without Professor David Wirth's leadership. I cannot underscore that enough. So I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude for his vision and for his leadership and everything he has created since the early 2000s in bringing the program to where it is today, and for Professor Judy Mcmorrow for her incredible stewardship of international programs here at Boston College Law School. What I would like to do now is turn our attention to the wonderful product of all our labor, our beautiful and wonderful students and our community. As I have always believed, the students keep us inspired, keep us fired up, and keep us engaged. And I know that they will do the same for you as well tonight. So I'm going to start with Dr. Bianca Giufini because she is our earliest in time alum, a graduate of the class of 2018. And I would like for her to give her own impressions and thoughts about Boston College Law School. And know that many of you will be very excited to hear directly from our alumni and students tonight. Bianca, the floor is yours.
Hi. First, it's a pleasure to be here, to see again Professor Judy, David, and Susan. And it's an honor to talk about Boston. So what makes Boston College special, as Professor David mentioned, is the faculty. Like the professors make this experience a boutique LLM program, as Judy mentioned. You are not a number in DC, and this for sure. You are not like in the middle of many LLM students. All the professors will know your name, will be always like a policy of open doors for you, and will help you before the LLM, during the LLM, and after the LLM. I say before because when I first visit Boston College to learn more about the program, I met Professor Barroso, who weeks later, before I joined Boston College, put me in contact with a Brazilian NGO in Boston where I could volunteer during 2 years. And this was amazing experience. And I still have contact with many of my professors. They still help me last week, to be honest, I was talking with another professor that helped me to know like a NGO, immigration NGO here in Austin, and to continue this program that they start like before the LLM program. Nowadays, I am working at Facebook in the legal department with privacy, elections, civil, and regulatory scope. And to be honest, when I started my LLM program, it wasn't my focus, but because you can build your own program, you can have experience in many fields, and you can learn different areas, which puts you like in a stronger candidate for any position and any field that you want to like work in the future. And so this was amazing experience, and I love to talk about BC and my LLM experience. So if anyone wants to chat more about that, I'm always open for that.
I'm extremely interested in how you helped presidential elections maintain security over Facebook in Brazil, as well as in Ireland and in the United States. Absolutely fascinating. And it's always very exciting to see women in STEM fields and women leaders in the tech industry. And Bianca, I have to say congratulations to you for forging ahead for Boston College alumni women in this month of the woman in this very important field. I'd like to now turn our attention over to the class of 2020, and that is Dr. Jayen Chen, who is here working in Boston. She'll tell you a little bit more about her experience at Boston College Law School, how she got here, and what she's doing today.
Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to deliver my little thoughts about BC law. And I've been always feeling grateful that I got a chance to attend BC law, because I met a lot of excellent professors. They're not only good in teaching, but also they're really kind and nice, so that you don't feel uncomfortable being alone, studying alone in the U.S. And personally speaking, due to Professor Hollander, she helped me find an internship first, and later I got an offer from this firm, which is a bankruptcy like boutique firm. And yeah, like I just don't, I can't find words to express my gratefulness to BC Law, and I think it would be a challenge as well to you guys if you wanted to, because as Professor Judy Mcmorrow has already said, most of your classes will be taken together with JD students, and you would do exactly the same work as long as competing in the same curve. So I think it is great, but it's a little bit challenging. So I think might want to be prepared. So, and thank you. I think if you want, please feel free to reach out me if you have any further question. I'll be happy to ask. I'll be around in Boston, and yeah, as part of the community. Thanks for your time and attention.
Thank you, Jayen. I really appreciate your thoughts and your encouragement to the students to be prepared and engaged for their coming year in the LLM. And we can talk about ways in which students can prepare themselves and put themselves in the best possible position to make the most out of the LLM experience. I'm very excited to also present to you current LLM student, Juliana Lobo. And Juliana is joining us. She's here in Boston, originally from Brazil. And I think you will really enjoy hearing some of her thoughts as well. Juliana, please.
Hi, thank you, Susan, Professor Kang. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk a little bit about the Boston College. It's For me, it's incredible experience. Boston College is outstanding school with a wonderful, caring, and accomplished faculty. It's a challenge year because our class is the class who's been the whole year in a pandemic crisis. But it's just wonderful to be around this so wonderful, caring faculty. In the beginning, I was very insecure about a lot of issues about the English, about my age. I'm the oldest in my class. I was insecure about how we how we work to be with other GG, how the diversity, what are the diversity you bring to the class. And I was very surprised the value of the LLM student bring to the class and how the professor try to find a ways that bring us to be integrate to the class, to be part of the class. And we feel that we belong to the community in some way. And we have a great staff, Susan, and all the support we need. And so far, I have been one of my best decisions so far, and in my legal career here in the United States. And this being, I like what everyone said about you can create your own history at the university. You can create your own program, and this give you freedom to try different class, maybe something that you never thought you gonna be exposed in some way, and you have a chance to do this in Boston College. And basic is being a pleasure to be here, and feel support. And if anyone has some question, please feel free to reach me out. And I hope finish May, and graduate.
I'm sure you will, Juliana.
I will miss each professor, each class, each morning, each meeting. It's been wonderful.
And speaking of wonderful, I have a little bit of a surprise that Jayen, that I haven't warned you about, but I want to congratulate you for passing the bar exam back in October. As you know, it was an incredibly kind of crazy year all over the world. The bar exams changed the dates multiple times and changed the format of the exam multiple times. And through all of that, LLM students had a lot of difficulty being able to register at the last minute for all of those changes. And 3 of our LLM students last year were able to register for the bar exam. And actually all 3 have passed, and Jayen is one of them. We're very proud at Boston College Law School for the excellent passage rate of our students, both for the New York and Massachusetts bar exam, and look no further than the faculty as a testament to that. The preparation and the one-on-one counseling that we give to our students really helps you to put one step in front of the other in terms of understanding your path and bringing that path to a successful experience, like in the case of Bianca at Facebook, or in the case of Jayen at her bankruptcy law firm. And so I think that that should really be very exciting at a time of a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of really positive things that have come out of the coronavirus pandemic, including this kind of outreach today and the ability for all of us to take a moment to actually see each other. I can't tell you how happy I am to see my former students tonight on a platform like this. It's really wonderful. I was wondering, I'd like to ask our students, how important was it? I noticed that Bianca mentioned the presence of Professor Bahozu, and also Professor David Worth mentioned a few of our faculty who practice in the area of international law. But I wanted to ask, how important is it to see diversity in the classroom in terms of diversity of national origin, diversity of representation of gender, or diversity of representation of language? How has that impacted your experience? And do you think that plays a role in setting BC apart from other institutions? Feel free, either one of the three of you, to jump in.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bianca.
Yes.
Or it's going to be like class and we'll use the Socratic method and I'll call on someone.
Yeah, I think like in the LLM, not like for us that are international students, it's not only law that you learn a lot of culture and other people, everything. So in my program, we had people from all the world. After the program, I went to live in Ireland for almost 2 years, and I could like contact people that live in Europe or that went to Europe after the program. So you make like friends for your life, and you also learn a lot about their culture, their habits. And Boston College is really open, and also JDs, they are curious about you. They want to know about how is like your experience, and they are open, especially to understand your accent, to understand like some difficulties that you may have. So this is wonderful.
Thank you, Bianca, for that contribution. Juliana, what about you?
Yeah, I remember telling that story, Susan, in the beginning of the fall semester. That I think was my first day in class. And I'm from Brazil, I'm a Latina. And I was in the cafeteria, tried to buy a coffee, and one of the staff and said, "Whoa, are you from Brazil? That's amazing. I'm gonna tell my granddaughter that there are Brazilian students here at BC." So I think that this make me emotional. I was like, "Oh, thank you." So how important the diversity is not. We have no idea the impact this in the whole community, and we think I believe that that's one of the value that the LLM program will bring to the whole university. Last week I was in a family law class, and one of my classmates, a JD student, Alfred, she asked, "Oh, you're from Brazil? I have a client from Brazil. I think she's doing an internship in a clinic or something like this." And she said, "Can you help me here translate? I'm not trying to understand the family law in Brazil." So this kind of connection that you do with your classmate, the staff, and professor, this is so important. And I create this can bring value for the program.
Jayen, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but that you had contact with our librarian, Jayen Chen, because she was working in legal research, not only in US law, but also in Chinese law. And she was speaking with the LLM students who wanted to do research in more than one jurisdiction. Could you say a little bit more about that? How important is it that our faculty actually come from different parts of the world, so their familiarity with those different legal systems?
Yeah, sure. So Professor Chen, she's from China, and she's familiar with like Chinese legal system. I think that will help sort of like American students to better understand how the other part of world is. And and it's also like it also inspired me in this program because I met a lot of friends from other countries around the world, and I've really learned a lot about their culture and their just different life experience, and that has caused they have different thinking from yours. So I think it's been very inspiring to me, and I think it's the same if you have faculty from other countries. It could be inspiring for other JD students. And Professor Chen, she also taught us about how to do research on like in EU law. Uh, I think that's important for international students who want to concentrate on international legal area, because you definitely need to do a lot of research about that. And I think that is a great opportunity if you want to take that chance and want to step in that area.
Jayen, I want to take what you just said and bring that to Professor Worth, who mentioned earlier that he was working with Dr. Giufini on a paper that became of publishable quality. It's rare for a faculty member to take the extra time to work with another student with the limited resources and time that you have to really work one-on-one with a student. And I know that you're quite famous actually for doing that. So could you tell a little bit more about what inspires you to work with students on a one-on-one basis to prepare publishable work?
Well, I consider it to be part of the job. It's just an element of the work that I do, and I have always done, and hopefully will always be able to do. Our students, you see 3 of them here bring an enormous amount to the classroom, to the institution, teaching in the international area in particular, but not just in the international area, as Professor Mcmorrow noted. It's helpful to have different perspectives. Many times our students have not critically analyzed assumptions that they have about their own lives, about the legal system that they're studying, about the world around them in Boston, in the United States, and where else. So I tremendously value the contribution of all 3 of you and all of our LLM students. That was built into the program from the very beginning, the notion that international students would enrich the entire institution. In terms of working one-on-one with students, it's a joy, it's a pleasure. I would do it even if I weren't paid. And to create opportunities for students when they leave Boston College, when they are for JD students, when they're in their summers, that kind of thing is about the biggest reward that a teacher can have. After all, we are, and when I say we, I mean all of us at Boston College Law School are working with students to train them to go out and do the kinds of things that we're working with them on in the classroom. If we can actually take that the next step, so much the better. And I'm always available, as indeed all of my colleagues are, I know, to help students to make the most of their education, not just in the classroom, but also in the real world.
And Dean Mcmorrow, I know that will clearly what Professor Worth said, which is really heartwarming, will also resonate with you as well, as you wear many hats at the law school, as Director of Clinical Programs as well as Director of International Programs. Could you say a little bit briefly here? I know that you'll be at a table to talk to students about specific clinical programs, but how important is it that students are able to, aside from working on a publishable paper on the academic field, what about that hands-on experience, and what inspires your vision for international students' engagement in that area? Oh, and you are muted, just to let you know. Thank you. it had to happen once, right, everyone? We've all been through it. I do it all the time. And she's having difficulty unmuting. So I'm just going to add, there you go. You did it.
Okay. So we have a very robust clinical program. Over 10 clinics here at BC Law School. Some of them are would not be appropriate for international LLM students. They require what's called 303 certification. But we have a couple of clinics that have been used by LLM students if it fits their learning goals. And one is a clinic that I'm very proud of that we just started a year and a half ago, our International Human Rights Practicum, where every semester 6 students work with Professor Daniela Rosa to provide amicus briefs to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. That clinic has we call it a practicum because they're doing amicus briefs, and they often don't develop an individual relationship with a client, but they develop a passionate relationship with a legal issue, and they have an opportunity to give their voice through an amicus brief to help move and transform the law, or to be part of a process of planting seeds in international human rights. So BC, now they have submitted 5 amicus briefs since this program started. They have 3 more in the pipeline. They've begun to see their insights from the amicus briefs showing up in the decisions of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. It couldn't be more exciting to know that as a law student, your work can help transform the world. Now, you have to think clinics tend to be higher credit, so it really has to be, does it fit within your learning goals? But there are opportunities there, and sometimes even if you can't do a full clinic, there are ways to get involved. So.
Professor Mcmorrow, I believe you were about to go to the second clinic that is extremely popular, which is the Immigration Law Clinic. Could you say more about that?
Well, we have an immigration clinic where our Professor Mary Holper, clients typically, they enter we give a priority to people who are actually detained. So they work to get their clients out of detainment and then work on the process of getting them legal status in the United States, whether typically it's going to be a lot of political asylum cases, but also other bases to look to say, can they provide a legal basis to keep their clients in the United States? Those students work on cases that can be in administrative hearings before the immigration court. They have appeared in federal court, and that those cases have a wide range of circumstances. Also, both of these clinics we have a team of social workers who are embedded in our clinics. We have a JDMSW professor who supervises 6 social work students, so that allows our students to provide holistic legal representation to their clients. And in the International Human Rights Practicum, it allows them to get the insights from social work and psychology to help build and strengthen their legal analysis. So really moving forward to make interdisciplinary work just part of our DNA.
Is really, really excellent. I just want to show, by show of hands, what were the concentrations that each of the current, our alumni and our current students were pursuing, even if you may have decided not to ultimately pursue, because as you know, at Boston College Law School, you have the option to pursue a concentration, but you're not required to pursue a concentration. We do have 5 concentrations. These are in tax, environmental, human rights, business law, and intellectual property. So just question off the top of my head, I actually hadn't prepared this question, but just curious that our 3 participants, if you could tell us what you'd been pursuing at BC in concentrations. And also, if you were pursuing a bar exam, what bar exam? And I'll start with Juliana. I'll call on someone.
Human right, Susan, and I applied to sit to Mass Bar exam now in July.
And Bianca?
I didn't have like a concentration. I focused my program a little bit for environmental law, but I didn't have like a concentration. And just to add something, Professor Dave said that it's part of his role to guide the students, but he always goes like much beyond his role, and it's incredible. And the paper was an example of that. And I passed the New York bar exam.
Your concentration and your bar?
So my concentration was business law, and I took New York bar.
That's great. And I hope that those of you who are listening in tonight can get some inspiration and excitement, and to know that you're in good hands at Boston College Law School with our depth of faculty that are able to prepare you for several concentration areas of law, as well as multiple bar exams. And I know that as the evening continues, we will be able to introduce you to more of our faculty, more of our students, and more of our alumni. Before I do that, I just want to open the floor, because we do have a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions that they wanted to add in the Q&A, now would be the time to do it. There is a question, and the question is, how long does it take to complete the LLM? So one thing that I would say about that as the director is that your LLM can begin as early as August, because we have an Insight Certificate program that helps you, what we call scaffolding, which is to accelerate your learning, but at a pace at which you can integrate into the program during the year. So the first week is Insights, and the next week and a half to 2 weeks are Foundations. And then you will begin the program itself. So you can count on spending part of your August at Boston College Law School, and then you will continue until the end of May, which is when the program ends. We have a brief period of break in January, during which time we have a switch in semesters. And then after the LLM program, you would have the opportunity, if you were here for both of those semesters, to take advantage of the optional practical training, which is what Jayen is doing right now. She is on her F1 visa, but she has authorization to work here in the United States. And she is moving forward with that for the full year of the optional practical training period. So even though your program will begin in August and end in May, potentially you could be in the US for an additional year. Mr. Mike Hollabaugh of our Office of International Students and Scholars will be sitting at my table to discuss what is involved in getting the OPT period. So Zamin Mazunge, I'm so happy for your question, and I just want to say it could be as little as 9 months or as long as almost 2 years. And I hope that that helps many students understand how long their experience could be here in the US. The optional practical training is the opportunity to put into practice what you've learned in school. Also, it looks like that we have a question regarding whether or not scholarships are offered. I don't want to embarrass anyone, so please don't say how much you were offered, but for all the students who are on the panel tonight, how many of you actually received a scholarship by raising your hand? All of them. And in fact, 97% of the students at Boston College Law School receive scholarship. You do not need to have a separate application. You do not need to profess a need. We do it on the basis of merit. And everybody will receive some form of scholarship, which will be thoroughly discussed with the committee and with me as a liaison to determine the best possible outcome. Because we care about our community. When we send an admission, we mean to have you join us. So we do everything we can from that moment forward to do what we can do to help you come to Boston to study with us. I see that there is also a question here about a couple of things. One is from Hugo Tulio Cesar Rubio Rodriguez, who I believe is from Brazil. Is there a full scholarship? We do have a full scholarship, but it is very, very specific. So if you are a member of a religious order of any kind, of any faith, please contact me, because there is a possibility for full scholarship on that basis. But otherwise, we reach almost half scholarships for most of our students, as much as our budget allows. In addition to that, I see there are other resources to explore in addition to the scholarship offered by somebody mistyped, but that's Boston College Law School. We are the university in Newton called Boston College Law School. And yes, there are many different scholarships you should check in your home country jurisdictions where scholarships are available. But I also want to mention that for those of you who are interested in constitutional law, the Klaus Center for Constitutional Democracy offers an additional $6,000 fellowship on top of the Boston College scholarship. And you do have to write a proposal and submit that to me. And the deadline for that is April 1st, no later than April 1st. So please do so if you're planning. A few other points that I would just like to make is that anyone who attends the REMO session, please contact us, call with the code REMOBC, and you will receive a fee waiver if you haven't already applied, as well as fast track treatment, which means that you will receive an answer from Boston College Law School within 10 business days of this event if you complete your application. So it's within 10 days of completion of your application. Further details on that will follow tomorrow, US time. We will be contacting all of the participants who have come today on that. I also, so that answers Juan Arence's question, which is what is the turnaround time? Well, you're lucky today because that turnaround time is being very specifically targeted for those of you who have participated this evening. So I would just like to give a few minutes for Professor Judy Mcmorrow and Professor David Wirth, and also all of our panelists, to say a few words. And then what we're going to do at the top of the hour is break into the second hour of our sessions, in which you will be able to meet professors representing all of our areas of concentration. All of the panelists will also be at their tables, and we will have other current students and alumni, as well as other faculty at tables for you to explore. Please make a point of saying hi to everyone this evening. We'd love to hear more about you. And with that, let me open the floor for Dean Mcmorrow and final words for the rest of our panel. Dean Mcmorrow, you're muted. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Nope. You just muted yourself again. No worries. Perfect.
So yeah, it seems to be happening automatically. But look at the tables, because now we can see your face. We can talk to you. We can hear more about your interests, the yearnings of your heart. Where do you want, and then explore, because we want this to be a good fit for you. So if it turns out it's not a good fit, we can talk openly about that. But I think it is a good fit because of the ability to tailor our work and what we have to offer to you and who you are and who you want to be.
Actually jump in and say one quick thing. Somebody has put a question that says, I heard about Brazil and China, but nothing about Africa. Any explanation? Yes. Our colleague Adedutun Oluzanya from Nigeria is supposed to join us on this panel, but he's having technical difficulties. So hopefully he'll be able to join the tables this evening. And so that you can hear more about Adedutun's experience in this year's LLM and last year's LLM, Sister Panina Wambale, who's currently applying to the PhD programs at the Eastern University of Kenya, is also very happy to speak to you if you would like in terms of follow-up. So I do want to make it clear that our intention was to bring a diverse group, but our technology did not cooperate entirely with us this evening. But thank you for the question. Professor David Wirth.
Yes, and both of them, Ade and Panina, students of mine. And so hello to you. Hope to see you at the second part of the program. So please do take a close look at Boston College Law School. The institution is people first, including all of you, potential applicants to Boston College Law School, assuming that it meets your needs. If you come to join us, I can guarantee that you will find yourself overwhelmingly welcomed, and all of us will make every opportunity to help you make the most of your educational experience.
And Bianca?
Yes, going back to the question, we have I remember people from France, from Chile, from China, from many places. So you find here a very welcome space for international students and also for U.S. Students as well. We had one student from the U.S.
Thank you, Bianca. I really appreciate that. And Jayen, if you would like to add a few words as well.
I think joining BC Law will be worth your time and your money, Wes. And I hope enjoyed tonight's event and get all the answers of your questions. Thanks.
And Juliana.
Yeah. Oh, before I say my final word, I just want to say hi to Professor Rosa and Professor Bloom. They're in the chat right now. And I just want to say thank you for your kindness, your patience. They were my professor last fall, and I had a great experience. And this extends for you guys. You guys can also have a great experience here at Boston College. So plan ahead, try to reach out a professor. Feel free to email us and ask us. Stay for the end for the next final, and go visit each table, talking, asking, and I hope you maybe see you guys around Boston College next year.
Thank you so much, Juliana. And I just want to summarize briefly the last two questions, and I'll quickly answer them, and then we can turn over and I'll explain what the table setups will look like. The question, will the program be fully administered in person, or will COVID have an impact? We are watching how that works right now. We will be following the guidance of the American Bar Association as well as the Massachusetts and New York bars, because they will need to waive the requirement of in-person learning in order for students to qualify for the bars. So that is the direction, Paul, that we will have, and we will be watching that carefully. Right now, we intend to be in person, and we will just continue to monitor how the global pandemic develops and our responses to it. And keep an eye on that, and we'll keep you all fully informed on that progress. I can tell you that the Insights program will be fully remote. That's the first week of the program for your convenience, because you'll be traveling in from other countries. So people appreciate having a little bit more of a relaxed start. Finally, the last question, which is from Ufuoma. Thank you so much for the question. It's a very common issue. Transcripts from the school are not yet ready. Yes, Ufuoma, you should start your application anyway, and we'll be waiting because we accept applications on a rolling basis. So please do begin your application, and then once it becomes available, my wonderful colleague Amanda Kenyon will immediately elevate your application to review status, and we will be working with you to make sure that you have a fair chance at being reviewed, even if your institution right now is closed because of COVID or delayed because of the pandemic. Thank you so much for that question. What I'd like to do now is explain how the second hour of the program is going to work. Shortly, once this platform ends, what you're going to see is a map of a conference area, and there will be 8 table seatings for each of the tables. And so feel free, by double clicking on a particular table, it will bring you into the room. And our either faculty, current student, or alum is going to be in that room to be able to speak to you about their subject matter. And what you'll notice is that each of those tables is labeled criminal law, legal writing, human rights, commercial law. So you will be able to move around, and I strongly recommend that you do so, even if you don't intend to study a particular area, because you literally meet 9 of our faculty this evening, 7 of our current students, and 3 alumni. That's a huge panel of individuals that normally would not be available in an LLM fair. Normally, I'm saying you've got to meet Professor David Wirth. He's amazing, and he will help you write a paper of publishable quality. And tonight, you actually have the opportunity to speak to him directly about that. Or you can ask Judith Mcmorrow what it feels like to clerk for the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, because that's something she did and something you might be really interested to hear about, and how that impacted her work in the area of ethics and torts, which I think is absolutely priceless. So I am gonna ask our event organizers to go ahead and end our panel, and then I will take my seat at the director's table, and our colleagues will all find their spaces. And please feel free to jump around. We will have about an hour, and then with 10 minutes to go, we'll bring everybody back to this part of the room and make any closing statements and instructions for you. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us for the panel presentation. We'll see you at the tables.
Okay.